Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology, and today I wanted to go over why avoidants don't like to label a relationship. Now, a lot of individuals have asked me this, so this was requested, and I'm going to try and touch a lot of points. However, this topic is pretty extensive and detailed, so I may have to make a couple more videos about this topic because I understand that you guys will still have questions. A lot of avoidant individuals will be in a long-term situation that is pretty much exclusive and literally a relationship, but they just will not label it. Some avoidants, especially after many years from when I've been working, I have patients I've worked with for years actually. Some I've even had since I was an intern. So I've seen a lot of, lengthy lives. And what I notice with avoidants who are in long-term relationships that they don't label, they eventually begin more comfortable labeling. So in the beginning of the relationship, a lot of them, not all of them, but they tend to be comfortable with being exclusive. Some avoidants, especially dismissive avoidants who are very direct. There are some dismissive avoidants who are really, really direct, right? They're very guarded, but once they pick you, they pick you. They're still not comfortable with the label, but they typically demand exclusivity almost right away. And that can be a little bit unique. Not everybody's like that, but avoidants tend to be, not all of them, but avoidant individuals, they expect loyalty on both sides. Not all of them, but some of them. And so exclusivity tends to be one of the first steps. However, labeling a relationship, avoidant individuals are very apprehensive about label because in their mind, they take it very seriously. So often what I notice is there's a transition. It starts with exclusivity and later they may say it's like a situationship or it's like a romantic, whatever they want to say. And slowly, maybe over the course of, sometimes it takes years, they may call it the word a relationship. We're in a relationship, but they just don't use the word girlfriend and boyfriend. And girlfriend and boyfriend, that may happen a little bit later. They're very slow and very cautious, but that doesn't mean that if you're in a relationship that literally looks like a relationship, but they don't label it, it doesn't mean that there's no hope and that it won't end in marriage. It tends to. If I'm being honest. Not all the time, but it tends to. And that's very important to recognize, okay? So let's go ahead and talk about why this happens. Avoidants are very guarded. Many, once they give themselves to a relationship, fall very, very hard. A lot of them do. And many avoidants, not all, but quite a bit of them have been burned before by this behavior, whether it's in friendships, whether it's in communication in school, whether it's in previous relationships. They give their heart with 110%. They do that with a lot of things. Avoidant individuals, I mentioned before, a lot of them work really hard. So they give their heart and soul to whatever they love, right? And so that's why they're extremely cautious, because when they let someone in, they really let them in. Subconsciously, by labeling a relationship, they feel like they're letting you know that they're attached to you. There's a part of them that feels like if they don't label it, they have a little bit of power. It's subconscious, so they're not doing it on purpose, but they're hiding away so that basically you don't stomp on their heart, basically, right? Now, this is usually the reason if they're very much a true avoidant. If they're not, and they're just somebody who's not interested in you, that might not be the reason. But for an actual avoidant, this is typically a reason. Now, it's normally very triggering for their partner if an avoidant says that they don't want to label. But it's very important to recognize that if they genuinely are a real avoidant, it has nothing to do with you. And it's important to not let their denial, because they're in denial that it's a relationship, don't let that scare you, because what ends up happening is you feed to it. Remain neutral. Your response should remain neutral. I know it's hard, but if they say they're not, they don't want a relationship, but basically they still want you. So basically it's like a relationship, but they don't label it as boyfriend and girlfriend. I know that a lot of people think that's not a good situation, but for an avoidant individual, that is truly a sign that they're opening up to you. They're not using you if they're doing that. So you can mention that you'd prefer a label, but you understand that they're not that type of person. But it's important to inwardly trust yourself more, because what happens with a lot of individuals, they trust the other person more. You think, which I understand because you're trying to protect yourself. Some individuals who are with an avoidant, they think the avoidant individual is all-seeing, knows everything, because they tend to be the more confident one, especially if they're with an anxious partner and your partner's dismissive avoidant. Dismissive avoidants don't struggle with self-esteem outwardly. Anxious individuals do. So both the the dismissive avoidant and the anxious partner trust the avoidant, but that doesn't always help because the avoidant individual makes a lot of mistakes, and it's true. In avoidance, if you are listening, why not you try and pay attention to a lot of times when you said something in your past where you said, I'm never going to do this, and then you do it. I work with a lot of avoidants. I cannot begin to count how many times that happens. Avoidant individuals, they do that a lot. And so I never am going to get married. We're never going to be boyfriend and girlfriend. Doesn't always work that way. I understand that you can be cautious, and if you don't want to be with them because you feel like they can't give you something, now talking to the anxious partner, I understand if you want to leave. However, I'm going to tell you, a lot of times they'll say they don't want to label, and then down the line they will. And so if you really believe that your partner will be more flexible about that one day, trust yourself. If you are exclusive, if you're texting daily, for the most part, seeing each other regularly, and you've been together for years, I'm going to break it to you, and sorry if you're an avoidant partner, not going to like this, but you're likely in a relationship. Whether or not they can accept it is different, but that doesn't diminish the reality of the situation. The avoidant individual, they're in their head a lot. Just because they're saying it's not a relationship, they're labeling it that way. We're not boyfriend and girlfriend, doesn't mean the reality of this is still what a relationship defines. Whether they want to admit it or not, that's on them. But if you're the partner, you can't live into that delusion as well. It's not healthy. It probably is a relationship if you're seeing those signs, okay? The next one, why they don't label a relationship, is they're afraid to disappoint you. So a lot of times avoidant individuals feel this way, and I don't blame them because it happens. They feel like if they have a label in a relationship, their partner will have an increased expectation. And that means that there's an increased likelihood of disappointment, right? And so it's important that if you are the avoidant, it's important to recognize that you will disappoint your partner, but your partner will disappoint you as well. So both of you should be listening to this. It happens to couples all the time, and it doesn't mean the relationship will fail. Disappointment is part of relationships. And as the partner, you can show that you accept disappointment without criticism towards your partner. So if you do feel disappointed, don't crash out, don't get upset. Show them, okay, I am disappointed, but I appreciate you telling me. I appreciate that this is, where we are, but let's work with what we have. Let's try and see how we can make it work, right? It helps your partner to realize this is a safe space for them, and they feel safe being honest with you, and they're more likely to be more comfortable disappointing you. Sounds really weird, but as they become more comfortable disappointing you, they're going to be more comfortable giving themselves to you, which includes labeling a relationship. I know it's a little backwards, but that's usually how it works with avoidance, okay? And the last reason why they don't label a relationship is they want to label it only when they're 100% sure, 110% sure, right? They want to make absolute sure. Many avoidants, as I've mentioned before, are extremely loyal when they commit, and they will give their heart to you and everything. They will give you everything. They will give you the shirt off their back, even if it's snowing outside. A lot of avoidants will do that. To this day, if you're in a relationship with an avoidant, you can understand this. Like, they may not be the most affectionate person, but they will drive through snow and thunderstorms to change your tire for you. A lot of avoidants will do that for you. And they don't require anything. They're just like that, right? And so if your avoidant partner gives you as much as they can give you, and they're trying to change, my recommendation is, and I'm not telling you to do this, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm saying I've noticed that this helps with some patients. So I'm not even going to say it's a recommendation. I notice this happens because I don't want you guys to take this as me telling you to stay with somebody who's going to hurt you. I'm not saying that. It's your decision. However, I'm saying sometimes what ends up happening is if you remain patient and you see your partner opening up, maybe trusting the process might be beneficial for you. And you can always leave whenever you want. If you feel unhappy or like you're not getting what you deserve, you can go find a partner that's going to get you what you need. Why stay with an avoidant if it's not going to help you? Especially if you're anxious, it can be a rough relationship. However, if you love your partner and you're seeing progress and you do like it, it can really help. It can really help, right? And I want to mention another thing. A lot of anxious individuals, particularly anxious, but I see this fearful too, they will complain about their partner, but they don't leave their partner. And that situation only makes for a more likelihood that your avoidant partner will leave or discard you or exit, right? Because the partner feels unhappy and they know you're unhappy and they don't know how to fix it, but you're also not budging either. And so let me give an example. Have you ever had a friend, which I think a lot of people have, where they constantly complain about their job and they always say they're going to quit, but they never do? Right? So it's not a perfect example, but what ends up happening is you start recognizing that, that buddy that's telling you that is saying that, but they don't actually mean it. And this is how anxious individuals feel about when they protest and when they behave. But that's also how avoidant individuals, I know it's going to sound a little confusing, and I probably will have to make a follow-up video on this, but that's actually also how avoidant individuals feel about a label, okay? It's not a perfect example, but I'm going to try and explain it. An avoidant individual is constantly saying, this is not a relationship. They're saying something, but the actuality is that it is, and they do like it, and they do care about it. It's hard. It's really hard to grasp, but that's actually what avoidants are doing. Anxious individuals do something on the flip side. They're always saying, I'm going to leave. I don't like my partner. Avoidants are terrible, X, Y, and Z, but they're still staying with their partner. That's how anxious individuals do it. You have to understand that insecure individuals, they cannot regulate their emotions. No matter who you are, if you're insecurely attached, regulation, behavior, it's very discontinued. It's disjointed. It doesn't always connect as cleanly as a secure individual, which if a secure individual says, you know what, I'm not happy in this relationship, in a couple weeks, they're probably going to leave. That's not the same with insecure individuals. They don't always click that same way. And you see that with anxious individuals, but avoidant individuals are like this too. Avoidant individuals are saying, this is not a relationship, but in fact, it is. They're just, that it doesn't click, right? They are wounded individuals as well. Don't think of them as somebody who is thinking secure all the time. They may not say it's a relationship, but it is. They are attached to you. They might not say it, and I'm not telling you to say this directly to your avoidant partner, but it's just important to keep that in mind. Avoidants tend to speak through their wounds, and they don't have a lot of self-awareness. It's important to not fall under this denial as well. It doesn't mean don't be cautious, but be aware of both sides. Don't pretend like the avoidant is a secure person. They are not. Just like you are likely anxious or fearful, leaning anxious. I see this with anxious individuals all the time. You say things you don't mean. So do avoidants. Nobody is perfect. Even secure individuals do this, but it's not as common. But it's very important to recognize you can't trip over the little stuff, even the big stuff, right? If they step out of the relationship, that's a different thing. But if they're, picking about words and semantics, I don't know if that is entirely worth something to be upset over if the relationship is healthy. Now it's up to you to decide. So I'm not telling you that you shouldn't stay or that you should. I'm not telling you what to do, but I am saying this is probably information that somebody might like. And I'm sorry if it's offensive. I truly am. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up because honestly, I could go on and on about this and it will just get more confusing. Go ahead and like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.